aside from the fact that you had that wonderful introduction by your mentor at the beginning, which was beautiful, but you talked about it yesterday too at lunch, how at one point in time you were just driving along in your car and a whole SWAT team surrounded you?
Well, I was at work. I was teaching at a school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I wasn't feeling well at school that day. But I rarely call out. It's just not my style. So I will get through the day. I ended up bumping into my boss who saw me, and she could apparently tell that I was just not well. And she said, "Go home. I'll get your classes covered for the rest of the day. Just go." So I left, and I went to probably one of Boston's biggest train stations, bus stations. And my stomach had hurt. It hurt so bad that I was pacing because I couldn't sit down. My train wasn't coming for about 40 minutes. I had time, but I couldn't sit still. So I was sort of pacing. Now, mind you, this was a week or two after the Boston Marathon bombings. So,
High alert.
High alert, and extra high alert, I'm sure, for a brown man with a backpack pacing in one of the biggest stations in Boston. Regardless, I was pacing, and you can feel sometimes eyes on you, and I felt eyes on me. I got this weird feeling that I was being watched, and come to find out I was. Within minutes, I was surrounded by SWAT team, state troopers, MBTA police. I mean, you name it, they were there. Guns drawn, dogs barking, and I'm looking around like, what is going on? And apparently I was the bad guy they were looking for. So guns drawn, dogs barking. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And the moral of the story is I looked suspicious. They asked me questions, where I was coming from, what was in my bag, this, that, and the other. Never went through my bag. They took my license and they ran it and they said, well, you don't have any warrants. No one's looking for you. Have a nice day.
Wow.
And I'm no journalist. I'm not a numbers man, but I'm pretty sure that not everyone who they feel is suspicious goes under attack the way I did that day.
Right. But that's been a lifelong theme. It didn't just start then. I was reading in your book that because of having a biracial heritage, that this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, the biracial heritage portion of my life has played a role in that. I've also struggled with my own identity for my entire life. For a long time as a child, I was too black to hang with the white kids and not black enough to hang with the black kids. So when you're trying to find your place, I think I mentioned in the book, I would sell drugs by day and practice handle by night.
And I think that's one of the reasons we connected, if not consciously, unconsciously. Yeah. I was an only child. I was being raised in an addiction environment. I felt less than, and I always had problems finding my place. I had a really hard time making friends. My stepdad was in the military, and we moved, and I was never in the same school twice. So I had that feeling of being different, like you're describing.
Yeah.
And then, like your traumatic experience, being converged upon by, all of this force, so to speak. I had a really bad experience too. When I was divorced when I was 18 years old. I was living in not a great part of town, and in the middle of the night, someone broke into my apartment.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, and I woke up with a knife to my throat, and I was sexually assaulted. The man happened to be black. So for a long time, I was like, I was really scared, and I had to use, a lot of my healing to work through that. And I don't see color now. I just, I see love, and it's such a beautiful thing. And I just wish that more people could come to that.
Yeah.
Because we're missing so much.
The trauma I heard in your voice when I first heard your story, that definitely crossed my mind. Like, she was sexually assaulted by a black man, and for you to be open enough, even more than other people in the room who had not been assaulted by a black man, Just your ability to be open and talk with me, and we're always talking about as black men, the idea of white women crossing the street when they see us coming, or not. A simple "hello, my name is" can go a long way. With things that are happening right now in our country.
Or just a smile.
A smile.
Yes. Like, hey.
Just to be open to it.
Yes. Yes.
I think sometimes when you have two, if we were both afraid to open,
we wouldn't be
here right now.
Exactly.
So what
beauty. And the joy
come.
From connecting is the ultimate high.
I mean,
this is what with addiction, this is what addiction replaces. It's a false substitute for this. One of the other things that really I think is very interesting and why we were connecting is that you achieved so much. You're a classical musician and so talented and work with children, and that was against all odds. And I have a similar situation, but talk about that a little bit, because I think that's really...
Well, I come from a long line of musicians of all sorts. My mom was the greatest music teacher I've ever known. And I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be like her. Most boys had Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. My mom was really my superhero, and I knew that from a very young age. However, I was like most young men who had to get out there and discover themselves first. Knowing I wanted to do something and getting it done were two different things. And I just wasn't in a place to make that happen as a young man. I made many excuses for the reasons for not getting that done. My mother's passing about 10 years ago is really the catapult that launched me into the life I'm in right now. I knew at that moment that I had to go fulfill this dream that she had for me and I had for myself, which is really the beauty of it, is that most parents have a dream for their child. Mine happened to be the same exact dream my mom had for me. So it was time.
But you had to overcome a lot. Like, we both ran parallel lives. We both had talents and gifts. And yet we were doing drugs and drinking and
chose to do those things.
Yes. So that duality going on.
And just another thing that we connect on, that we both experienced. When my mom passed, I had a very dark time, and I had a very rough time with prescription pills. I'm not afraid of it. A lot of people experience it. And I mentioned in the book where I wasn't sent to a rehab facility by any court, by any police officer. I drove myself to the rehab place. And the intake woman said, "Who sent you here?" And I was like, "I drove here, my car's outside."
Yes.
My mom passed, I've been in a dark place, I've been doing some very bad things, and I need to clean up. Stayed in the detox for 2.5 weeks, and I left and enrolled myself in college and went and got my degree.
That is so inspiring. I too kind of admitted myself to recovery, and actually I was highly functioning at the time, and I also had hit an emotional bottom like you did, though. But I had already worked my way through night school to get my high school diploma, and then went to college and wound up just persevering, even though my addiction was all of it was already going on, and there was always that part that was undermining my mission and my goal here. But I did manage to finally get that doctorate degree and be able to fully embrace my life now. The recovery.
Isn't it a great feeling?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Isn't it a great feeling?
Yes, but not just the accomplishment. That it's not the things on paper that matter. It's the joy that we have. That being on fire for life, and to be able to connect in such a loving way. To me, that is the ultimate. That's why I'm here. I think that's why we're all here. But because of trauma and the past and childhoods and things happen, that people get blocked and stuck, and then they become afraid to be fulfilled by fulfilling their purpose here.
Afraid to be fulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah. it's something that we see every day.
So they settle for less. They settle for, and then of course you were sharing with me at lunch yesterday that, you know, when you started stepping out of your family role, you got a lot of resistance.
Yeah, very much. I mean, part of the title of my book, Excuse Limit Zero, is a two-part meaning. It certainly means no more excuses for yourself. We've got to stop making excuses for ourselves. But at the same time, it means not excusing other people for their injustices and their wrongdoings and their part in the wrong side of the equation.
Yes.
Holding people accountable.
Yes.
I spent 7 years in the classroom at very privileged institutions, and the bureaucracy of it all, the do your own thing but do it the way we tell you to do it, the, you know, we're leading the charge in diversity, but when it really comes down to it,
right,
you know,
how diverse are their personal
how
lives?
diverse are your goals?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so having the strength to now take myself out of the classroom and really try to reach more people that look like me, that will experience the things I went through. To get my message out to the masses is really where I am, and my first love will always be teaching in the classroom.
Yes.
But from my experiences, these classrooms just aren't ready for my message.
Yes.
And the world is.
Yes, the world is ready. And one of the things that we were talking about yesterday, which I think is so important, and something that both sides are missing in the political conversation about racial justice and injustice. I feel that, you know, we've come so far since I was a child. I mean, I was raised in the military, so that was somewhat, you know, neutral in terms of that. But then when I came back to Florida, wow, there was so much going on in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've come so far, so far. But to say racism doesn't exist anymore is crazy. So why can't we just say we're 75% there, we're 80% there, and now the next part is, you know, learning how to love each other and how to hold hands together. And there isn't they and them, there's us.
I think certain classrooms aren't ready for the message, but the world is. And it's simple. People are looking at the wrong things.
Yes.
I'll give you a perfect example of what I consider white privilege. I've heard people say, you know, what's happening to these black men is awful, but the looting and rioting has to stop. Let's try this. The looting and the rioting is awful, but the killing of black men has to stop. Looking at the wrong things. So, you know, I think a lot of...
And how about it all has to stop?
It all has to stop.
Yeah.
It has to. In a time where this country needs unity, just look at us.
Yes.
We respect each other.
Yes.
We respect where we came from.
Yes.
Even though it's different sides of the track.
Right.
Pain is pain.
Exactly.
And we all experience pain.
Exactly. And the only way to heal that is through love.
Yeah, through love.
And not saying, you know, somebody has to be X, Y, and Z for me to let them in.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything, you know, and we're all here. We're all here. And if the Creator wanted everybody to look alike, we'd all have the same colored skin.
And how boring would that be?
And how boring would be every flower was the same color, you know, every tree looked alike. I mean, that's not the point.
Yeah, to celebrate our differences.
Of creation and creativity.
Yeah, yeah. Boy, it's It's such a joy to sit here with you. This doesn't happen every day. I don't meet many Donna Marks, but I'm glad I met this one.
Oh, thank you.
I am. I'm so proud of where you've come from, what I've learned about you in just a year. And it's not like we were chatting on the phone every single day, but
Right.
the moment I saw you yesterday, the embrace
Yes.
says it all.
Yes.
Yeah.